my experience in education, and, in pre-academic education, in order to try to synthesize some basic concepts. First of all, let's get the obvious out of the way. There is a difference in levels of reality between just being and being transdisciplinary, because otherwise we wouldn't be here. And this difference in levels of reality means that different rules apply to being and being transdisciplinary. As we know from the logic of the included third, which ensures the passing and transition between the levels of reality, this reality containing these levels has a ternary structure. We found the key 3 everywhere, and of course its most expression, the hidden third, which is the essence of transdisciplinarity. And it should also be said that there is no transdisciplinary knowledge without transdisciplinary being, because, as my previous speakers have stated, what we know depends on what we are. So these two cannot be really separated. As a biologic being, as we all are, we are divided in 3 main components, which transdisciplinarity has included, which is our mind, our intellect, our emotion, and our physical body. And these, as I said, are separated, which is, of course, the cause for fragmentation and for some things that are not that good, but also this is the space where the hidden third may appear and where the transcendence may also appear. This structure of ours, ternary, with these components of ours, intellectual, emotional, and physical, form a unity at the same time as they form 3 parts. And of course, we cannot be reduced to them, as we cannot be reduced to our physical atoms or molecules or chemical atoms. We are an open unity, and this is where also the hidden third appears. As this structure of ours matches the structure of reality, which are both ternary, as reality is ternary, we also have to be participating to it in a ternary way. This means that there is a difference between being transdisciplinary, which means to embrace this tertiarity of ours, and being, which can be expressed in several contradictions, binary contradictions between subject and object, being here involuntary or being here more voluntary, being here by sequence, part by part, or being here with all at once. And of course, we can be here predetermined or be here spontaneous. I think we all have this basic experience of how to participate in life, and we all know more or less how to make difference between them. But this trap has to be surpassed, because we have this concept of the third, which has 2 meanings in transdisciplinarity, the hidden third and the included third. The relation between them has to be very clearly understood, because they are different. The hidden third is illogical and belongs to no level of reality, while the included third is on levels of reality and has a logical nature. They are both different and the same, at the same time being the expression of transdisciplinarity itself. As we seek the unity of knowledge, which is the fundamental scope of transdisciplinarity, we have to take into account that the levels of the reality on the outside have corresponding on the inside levels of our perception, which are the levels of reality of our being. And this creates a correspondence between an informational flux and the consciousness flux. Information flowing outside and consciousness flowing inside. So to speak, the external unity of knowledge needs a certain internal unity of being. Which of course cannot be achieved without the hidden third, because this is an interaction term, as it had been stated earlier. It is something that appears when a certain interaction takes place, interaction of three, instead of interaction of just one or separated. So the ancient wish to know ourselves has to be approached very practically, because this is not happening just like that. That would mean that everything is transdisciplinary being, and this is not. But it has to be created by us by a certain attitude, and this participation has a specific effect, which is our observation of ourselves. This is different from the observation of the outer world, the observation that science studies, which is more experience and observation. It is more an inner observation, an observation of our inner interaction between our parts. This observation creates unity between the subject and the object, between the interior and the exterior, and it creates also the link between the objective experience and the subjective experience, between science and religion, because as we can see, it is common in the space, in the open unity, in the space of the open unity between the how we obtain understanding by confronting information and experience, and how we obtain our inner observation, inner understanding of ourselves, which is confronting our intellectual, emotional, and physical parts. This leads to a very interesting conclusion that we have degrees of interiority. We do not we are not just divided into interior and exterior. This would be binary thinking. We have degrees of interiority corresponding to degrees of inner being. And this means that we have to search for that interiority, more interior than the usual interiority of ours when participating to reality. And this leads to the final part of my presentation, the vertical dimension, which also my before speakers have mentioned, that in order to transcend we have to search the vertical dimension, which is not, again, a matter of chance, because it implies an effort of being here, an effort of being transdisciplinary, and compared to the usual way of how things are going by minimal path of energy, path of minimal resistance in physics, if I am allowed to make such comparison. This requires a path of maximal energy, a path of maximal tension. The contradiction has to be there in order to go away from the... It has been said before about the man-machine, about the danger of becoming more machines. This is the other way, the way towards the incarnation of metaphysics and of being transdisciplinary at its very best. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm inviting Mrs. Fomin from Romania, from the Petrariu High School from Suceava. She is going to present Renewal in the school garden, a transdisciplinary educational experience.
Hello everyone. I'm Fomin. I'm from Suceava, Petrariu National College. I'm here to speak about the School Garden project, a transdisciplinary educational experience that has been going on for approximately 2 years, involving at present a team of 20 teachers and approximately 200 students. As I'm a teacher, of course, I will tell you a story, because all teachers have to be artists and storytellers in the first place. There was this teacher who, after education. And of course, the same could be said about our students, who got good grades but didn't really enjoy what they were doing at school. Of course, in such a case, asking the right question is a good idea. And definitely, this was going to broaden our horizons. Thoughts were to be followed by words and actions, and hopefully a true story, one that is timeless, speaking to all of us at a deeper level in the future. And so it was. Awareness was followed by a flash of inspiration, perfect in its simplicity, from which the structure began to emerge, with beginning, middle, and ending, connecting words, adjectives, and adverbs. In other words, a whole symphony of phrases. Definitely, research was needed. Experience was added to that. And gradually she understood that the project of transdisciplinarity could be the answer, and that it has to be part of students' lives. Just like Richard says, at all levels of education, and since this is something that students need to grow into, focusing on the elements of nature seemed the best idea. Geography, physics, maths, chemistry, biology, computer science, and philosophy and religion were to be integrated. But through all these, big questions were to be added, and reflection was to be conducted, so that head, hand, and heart could be in harmony. These are our students doing all these things together, happy faces, big hearts, and I hope wonderful futures for all of them. So, paying attention to all levels of students' experience, the teachers felt their longing for open spaces, rain, sunlight, and fresh air. During weekends and holidays, she took them outside, and thus she could see that they were no longer interested in overusing smartphones and tablets, being simply happy to join a game, splash with water everywhere, and have fun. As this was not enough, she thought she should write a project, analyzing the needs of the school. We conducted research. It was not easy. Definitely we had to measure something that seemed to me at first impossible to measure. How could I measure connectedness with nature? Of course, I used the site, the Transdisciplinary research projects, the PhD theses that were posted there. And I understood what connectedness with nature could represent at scientific level, so that I could motivate my request and write the project. So, again, this project had a wonderful, sweet fruit for my kids. Of course, like in all the stories, there are ups and downs, paperwork, protagonists and antagonists, fear of failure. But making this a labor of love revealed the high level of the endeavor, and fresh ideas and energy came to help. Well, this is what I attempted to measure. These are the results. This is the connectedness with nature skill that I found in a PhD thesis on the site. I'm sorry to say that the 40% there represent the students with low level of perception, students who are afraid of nature, who are afraid that if they go to the forest, there would be like bugs or something wrong, hurting them or something like that. And they immediately asked me, let's go home, teacher, we want to watch TV, we want to play a computer game. And gradually, they changed. And if this change is possible, it means there is no way back. After all, what bird would wish to go back into the cage? Well, carefully observing and learning from previous experience, in particular the one from National College, that I visited in 2015 when I attended the conference organized there, we were able to write an Erasmus application so that more teachers is our project and what it meant for us. We are still working on it. Obviously, a lot of other products will be released and posted so that they can be accessed by other teachers in the country and, if possible, abroad. These are the final products of this project. You can read that. I will not read everything from the slide because obviously it's easier for you to just look at it. And if you wish further details, of course, I will be around to answer your questions. The adventure continued. A new project was written so that we could build new facilities around the school. We needed to involve the community. Otherwise, of course, with what money could we give our children our garden, which is so beautiful right now. And by the way, we also have a cat with 3 kittens playing with our kids. We don't know where it came from, but the kids are happy to feed the kittens and to be there. It's interesting. This is again a significant idea. The facilities are like that, with an area for project-based learning, experimentation, solar panels for the students who want to experiment with renewable energies. So definitely more than I can explain because I'm not a teacher of physics, but definitely my colleagues are very, very happy to use all of these and kids are happy to learn outside and to see that their activity is meaningful. Well, definitely we started with the youngest of our students. They are 11 because we are trying to build the roots. For the 11-year-olds, that is the 5th grade, we designed transdisciplinary units on water. As 6th graders, they will have to study Earth, as 7th graders energy, and in the 8th grade they will be exposed to education for sustainable development. Again, another interesting aspect, another team of teachers, independent from this group that was organized around this project, wanted to be creative themselves. They just wanted to do something powerful, equally powerful. And they designed units on time. And they wanted to see how this worked with 17-year-olds, that is 11th graders. And that project is amazing. Well, definitely my conclusions are happy conclusions. Beyond disciplinary boundaries, students and teachers gained competencies, accumulated understanding and knowledge, formulated new questions, and felt the joy of being creative. Obviously, having fun, doing experiments, all of this work together. This is their art. Happy face, sad face, just like in our fairy tales, the Romanian fairy tales. One eye crying and another eye being happy. We know what this means, because if we don't take action, there might be too many tears in our children's cheeks. Well, in all these educational experiences, exploring the unknown was necessary. So, teachers and students had to use their intuition and imagination. They all felt this new energy transforming them. Dead letters from old textbooks melted as the adventurers playing with possibilities unfolded. They all realized that the secrets of nature can give learners and educators wings. Indeed, at the moment, in terms of being transdisciplinary, we are in our infancy. We don't know much. But being here shows me that more and more people, educators, researchers, are looking in the same direction. And above all, I can see and I can feel a wonderful gift of love. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you. And now comes Mrs. Corina-Nicoleta from Cluj, representing Simona Noja
Thank you very much. I'm going to tell you something also about children. Children that are studying ballet, classical dance. So, a child is studying 12 years, different objects, but a usual child, a usual school, but a child from a child that is studying but has to learn 9 years something else, not only the common objects. They have to learn to learn and listen classical music, to make permanent physical effort, and they have to learn how to transmit emotions. So that triangle is always in the mind of a future ballet dancer. They need to think about a lot of information from dance technique, which involve physics, biology, geometry. They need their body to perform, and also they need their soul to feel, to control their own feelings and to transmit emotions. And also it's a lot of work, a lot of body pain, a lot of fail, and a few but very important happy moments. So our idea, when we started 4 years ago, this project was to rise self-esteem of a child who is going to follow his passion for classical dance. And we want to make children to look inside themselves with proud that they achieved not only dance skills, but also self-discipline, group work, ability to express emotions, and ability to use practical use of sciences. And also we had another goal to educate the young public to love beauty and culture. And dance is the easier step for this. So we started 4 years ago, and after 2 years we understood that it looks like a choreography. We have a lot of people from different areas, from school, university, from different countries, from Romania and from Cluj and different places also. And it's like a choreography. We put it together. So we have a lot of activities like this. We started with easier activities, and then we decided to make a festival. And at the European Festival at Ballet School, Mrs. Simona Noja invited scientists like Oliver Petrariu, who is also a musician and also a choreographer. He's a neurologist, a musician, and a choreographer, and or like Dr. Peter Hauschild to discuss with children, other teachers, parents about a lot of topics that involves ballet dancer. We had an online competition, Interartes, transdisciplinary performances, and also we have 2 young students that also danced, like the last one, and they bring new ideas. Carmen Agel from Iași, she has a paper on research on neurobiology of dance, and Adrian knows a master degree in web design. This is the impact group. The team, it's a huge team. student from 9th form or 10th form, and to be able to put questions and to keep her attentive to them. We also worked with not only with students that are studying dance, but also with students from Colegiul Național Mirela. They are very good in sciences, and we made groups for discussing topics like physics and ballet debates that involved a master of ballet, Mr. Solomon, and a physics teacher, and the ballet master won the debate. We had round table and panels. And we danced some stories. I'm sorry, Prima Ballerina is not here. She had to leave. So, the ballet represents an act of elitist culture. The concept of ballet completes the other arts. The topic of a ballet is a narration supported by music and by the movement of the human body. Ballet is undoubtedly associated with spatial arts. Its scene unfolds a form of language with a status of its own. This versatility creates prerequisite for a particular confluence and interconnection with other arts and disciplines through which ballet penetrates new fields of knowledge and acquires new means of artistic expression, as well as new forms of emotional persuasion. Mrs. Mirela is very sorry she cannot be here. Thank you very much.
Okay, so it's my turn now, questioning the transdisciplinary education. It will be my personal interrogation about transdisciplinary education, coming out from both my theoretical knowledge about transdisciplinarity, but mainly by my practical experiences in applying transdisciplinary methodology in education. In Iraq, the town where I came from, a lot of transdisciplinary projects were developed in the 10, maybe 15 years. 3 national conferences about transdisciplinary education took place there. So our preoccupation for education and transdisciplinarity still remained constant since then. I'm not going to give you examples of our projects, but I'm going to put some questions because there are some reflections I have to make about all my projects and all my experience in applying transdisciplinarity. So, my first question, a common one, will be what really education means, what really education implies. Is it a matter of product, outcomings? Is it a matter of process? A matter of methods or topics, curriculum? A matter of instruments or resources? It could be
all of it. But we must agree upon the fact that education implies both and equally important processes: learning and teaching. Learning and teaching are considered to be of equal importance in education. But a paradox comes immediately, because, in my opinion, teaching could not exist without learning. Teaching is absurd without learning. Instead, learning could exist anytime without any teaching. That's my statement, and I'm gonna develop my ideas starting from this point. My first try was to summarize in a comparison the main differences between teaching and learning. Maybe they are radical, put it down, but it was obviously to everyone. So if we are going to look at the comparison between teaching and learning, we could notice some important things. First, learning is a natural need of a human being. Without learning, we won't survive. So it's a natural ability, a gift, inherited ability. But teaching is an artificial need for social integration, and of course an acquired ability. Another difference comes concerning the environment. Learning has a natural environment. We can learn, every one of us. We can learn anytime, anywhere. That is why we are talking about long life learning. Instead, teaching needs an artificial environment, limited in space and time, limited in the space of a classroom or other spaces, limited in time till the bell will ring. Teaching is limited in topics and in curricula. So, in other words, it's limited because of an institutional program. Looking at the learning, we noticed one of the most important things, that learning means acquisition of information, skills and values, but unfortunately teaching still is focused on delivery, information, skills and values. So, learning is targeted to understanding the meaning of life, but teaching is targeted to achieve some compulsory scores. We are talking here about quality and quantity, two different things. Focused on understanding the meaning of life, it means that everyone needs the body, the soul, and his mind to have a meaningful understanding. That's why learning will be assessed by the life exams everyone are passing through. Instead, teaching needs some compulsory scores, social system assessment, social validation. In one word, learning is continuous, never stops. Teaching is discontinuous, and most of all, learning is strictly and teaching is not, but it should be. According to this characteristic, learning is transdisciplinary by itself. That's my opinion, because it's natural. Teaching is not, obviously. If we agree about this point, that education implies teaching and learning, the next question will logically appear. And the next question is, what will be the consequences on transdisciplinary education concerning this statement? Well, in this perspective, the relation between teaching and learning claims a different approach. The relation between the levels of the subject and the levels of the object should be reconsidered. And we are talking here actually, because we are actually talking here about two different subjects, the learner and the teacher. On one hand, the levels of the objects come into a relation with two different subjects, and on the other hand, the levels of the two different subjects have also to interact in the frame of a transdisciplinary dialogue. This complex relation I mentioned will be properly described in my written paper. But at this point, could we talk of a transdisciplinary dialogue in a public system of education? At this point, my answer is no. Maybe I'm not too optimistic, maybe I will change my opinion in time, but at this moment of my understanding, the answer is no. If learning is individual, teaching should be at least the same. Otherwise, the transdisciplinary dialogue is quite impossible. So, we are going to conclude and kindly ask you some questions, the following questions, and we are waiting for your answers, not now, not here, but maybe in the future, as a benefit of all of us. I don't have at this moment a definite, I can answer definitely yes or no, but it remains a problem of reflection about the following questions. Sorry. Yes, the first one. Learning is transdisciplinary by itself, as I said. Teaching is not. Could transdisciplinary teaching be taught? Could the public system of education be transdisciplinary? Would we practice a transdisciplinary education in a frame of a disciplinary curriculum? You have to find your own answers. Thank you. Yes, we still have some time left, so if any one of you would ask one or two questions. Yes, please.
Do you think we can change the way we teach the disciplinary curriculum by introducing a transdisciplinary frame?
Of course we can, but it depends on certain persons. Talking in the frame of a public system of education, I'm afraid it will not be possible very soon.
Second.
I
think the problem is we have to teach all the other teachers.
Yes, that was one of the questions.
Yeah.
Can transdisciplinary teaching be taught?
I think
How?
you can.
Yes, let's be optimistic then. Thank you. Oh, another question, sorry.
Regarding continuity
Yes, but with special people, with dedicated teachers, and I was speaking just about the public system of education, which in my opinion is manipulating, positive or negative, but is manipulating. The solution, in my opinion, will be not teaching, but monitoring, individual teaching, like in ancient Greek.
Yeah, I agree, and I definitely share your views. But again, stories show us the way.
Yes, good,
Just
you're
like
right.
many other presenters here told us meaningful stories. And if we look there, we see that there is always a structure showing us the way out. Probably not. We need to find a solution outside the system. Obviously, the solution is
Obviously, but still remains an individual attempt.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I have to add that Mirela, Mureşan is already, I would say, an historical figure of movement of transdisciplinarity in Romania. In Pre-tertiary education is a very important college, Mureşan in Arad, where she made a lot of experiences, and now she's had from some time by my brother. PhD student, the first one, and Muska is here, and is a very, very happy construction here. Before giving the floor to Sasha Kagan, I will greet His Excellency Mureşan, the Ambassador of Romania in Germany, is here, just arrived from Berlin. So, we'll continue. Invite the talk of Sasha Kagan, who is research associate at Lausanne University in Lüneburg, in Germany, and is one of the most the brightest and known researchers on the connection between arts and humanity. I'm very happy that he's here. After complication, he's an hero of this meeting. He Hamburg airport was closed because electricity was cut down. He made incredible travels to arrive here. Okay.
I need to be moving, so I stay awake. We've been, eating, and it's afternoon and quite warm, so if you need to move a little bit, as long as you're not too noisy, just to keep awake, don't hesitate in the next minute. So I will be talking about artful sustainability in transdisciplinary spaces of possibilities. And I will try to go through 3 moments, if I manage to keep the time, or to manage in time. First, about learning transdisciplinary. Secondly, about becoming transdisciplinary. And thirdly, about doing transdisciplinary in the practices that have to do with either art-based research, with art ways of living, and with artful approaches in social practices. So first of all, I start with learning. Learning will also be a technique, if I move a bit. Learning transdisciplinarily. Here I'm interested in talking about the contributions that can be made to a transdisciplinary hermeneutics, whereby a dynamic and a complex relation between different ways of knowing and making worlds may be developed. First, a few words about the aesthetics of qualitative complexity, which I think are a very interesting aspect in this, in the contributions of artistic research and art-based research. What I find interesting in aesthetics of qualitative complexity is that they can be helpful in this process of trying to fight against those different forms of reductionism. Let's talk about them, for example, from modernity to postmodernity. I recently was thinking of this notion that comes from queer theory with this notion of a cisgender. And I was thinking maybe there's also a problem, not just of a kind of cisgender attitude in terms of gender studies, but also a problem of cisdisciplinary attitudes in terms of how we relate to disciplines. So attitudes to research where one may make the mistakes of being, let's say, content with situated and partly valid knowledges and learnings, which are of course made possible by disciplines, but which are of course mistaken when they take themselves for self-sufficient accesses to knowledge, or when one is merely satisfied with fragmentary learning. So this, I think, at least that's what I was thinking, maybe one can call that a cisdisciplinary attitude. A bit like, metaphorically, when you think about the cisgender, this kind of self-identification and this kind of regulation that comes from there. I think that aesthetics of complexity can help to try to move away from that. When I say aesthetics of qualitative complexity, I just mentioned it shortly. I'm referring heavily to the work also of Edgar Morin and this idea of qualitatively complex relations, which means that all complex relations involve different relations in relation to each other, meaning in one of the formulations, which helpfully are a little bit simplified from Morin, is talking about having relations of complementarity, at the same time relations of competition, relations of unity, and relations of antagonism, and then also the relations between these relations. I think that certain forms of aesthetic experience can help us have an access to those forms of qualitative complexity. What it also means is finding a balance between between dialogic processes and dialectic processes. In a dialectic process, in a Hegelian sense, the tensions between the opposing views are resolved through compromises or argumentative resolutions and synthesis. In a dialogic process, in the Bakhtinian sense, different views coexist and respect each other's difference, whereby oppositions remain open and unresolved. The challenge of a qualitatively complex approach is not to privilege dialectic or dialogic processes, for example, privileging the dialogic, as some proponents of mindfulness may argue, or vice versa. Oh, I'm getting out of range of technology, or vice versa, as some proponents of agonistics, for example, may argue. But instead to find a kind of dynamic process, negotiating, but that involves both dialectic and especially dialogic approaches in the Bakhtinian sense, which in a way is kind of what Morin also talks about when he talks about dialogics in a different way. So doing that through arts-based research means not trying to eliminate antagonisms, not trying to solve paradoxes, but trying to think through them. So what's interesting in the arts, in contributing to those approaches, is the idea of art as a form of question-based learning, where art allows to make research questions more interesting. It's about enabling questions, questions that enable, and also ennobling questions, questions that ennoble approaches and issues, that highlight those qualitatively complex relations, that highlight indeterminacy, rather than an approach which is very interesting, but still where I see many limits, which is the project of problem-based learning, which is focused on solutions, and which through solutions precipitates the closure through finite answers. This is about developing arousing, evocative, and reflexively stimulating questions. It also has to do with the importance of symbols that Petrariu also talks about in From Modernity to Postmodernity. So the complexity of symbolic thinking also is involved. Thereby, this is about opening up multiple perspectives and multiple attentions at once. Then, artistic and art-based research have many different qualities. I cannot go in details, of course, right now and today. Just in short, when I say, or when some researchers say artistic research, they mean research which is carried out in the context of art. You know, what in our modern societies we call art fields or forms of artistic practice. When one says, if I would know where the sender is, it might help. When we say arts-based research, we mean research that involves artistic elements, artistic qualities within, for example, the social sciences. I mean, I come from social sciences, so I will take in this case the social sciences. So I will talk now a bit more about arts-based research. So this is research involving the systematic use of artistic processes, the actual making of artistic expressions in all the forms, the different forms of arts, and employing these as a primary way of understanding and examining experience. So that's I'm quoting Sean McNiff, who's been writing on that. In social science, I'm going to change my tactic and not move because I don't like these noises. So, yes. Yeah, the sound is much better, so the movement is lost. But you will have to follow the movements of my talk instead, verbal details. So yes, in social sciences, art-based elements can be involved in all the phases of the research. That means at the phase of data collection, of analysis, interpretation, and representation. It can affect our very ideas on the nature of knowledge and understanding, introducing things that have often been kept out from the breadth of a researcher's access to the world. It especially is very interesting to appeal to art-based forms of research in order to allow more embodied cognition, paying attention to the importance of the body in movement through kinesthetics, of the senses, learning also from, there's a lot that has been said in phenomenology about this. For example, Merleau-Ponty is definitely very interesting to go deeper into that, of emotions, of intuitions, of the subconscious, of tacit knowing, and mobilizing all of these in forms of art through research and through this question-based learning I mentioned, which also means embodied questions. I won't have time now to go in detail, but there is an interesting correlate to this, which is the question of how the imaginary is involved. This is something that Nicolas mentioned, also from modernity to postmodernity, but where I would also have some arguments, actually, also some things I'm missing in your interpretation of it, where there's many interesting links, especially between sensory perception and the imaginary level, and also the imaginary institution of society. So things where Kant and Merleau-Ponty and also Castoriadis can be especially interesting to look at these. But in any case, this role of imagination and imaginaries is a very important part of in arts-based forms of research. It's also about exploring the spaces between what is known and what is not, and also exploring into forms of darkness, allowing ambiguities and ambivalences. These things can be very well worked on through arts-based forms of research. Arts-based research also allows to enhance the awareness of the subjective self, the researcher recognizing herself or himself as an author, as a storyteller, taking responsibility for the imagination, for one's imagination, and reflecting on the imagination, not just reflecting mindfully, but reflecting intuitively and reflecting corporeally. So this is about developing imaginative investigations that articulate constellations of possible meanings, allow a large freedom of lateral and associative thinking, and working with lived experience. Because we also just heard in terms of several education projects just now, where one also sees those artful forms of learning. Empirically, this means developing a heightened awareness of the multiple levels and processes of interpretation that are at play in perception and in further cognitive and intersubjective communicative processes, finding ways to express knowledge that cannot be expressed merely by denotative writings, and focusing focusing on contextual knowledge, including the audience, the recipients, and their interpretative works in the knowledge production process. To come back to Nicolescu and modernity to postmodernity, is very well describing that in much detail in the case of the theatre of Peter Brook and the relationship with the audience through that theatrical work. Then, however, not however, what's also interesting in this is to see this artistic process as a kind of life art, what I would like to call a queer life art and also a convivialist life art. Here I'm seeing art as a verb, so not so much art as a thing, but art as a kind of transformative force in society, a source of complex questionings that sharpens our ability to engage through transdisciplinarity with the world's compounding challenges. So art as a verb, not art as a noun. Art conceiving being as becoming. This is also, to name another person, Tim Ingalls is very interesting in his views on being alive and the process of becoming. Becoming transdisciplinary is also to break out of the cis-cultural into the transcultural, as we heard before, the inter- and the transcultural, out of the cisgender, the cis-racialized, the cis-normative attitude to becoming human. This encourages a complex experience of the world where harmony through contradictions and tensions through apparent harmony are embraced with and are played with. And I think this playful living of life is also a querying of good life. Not about preserving good life. The search for sustainability should, and for sustainable development, some people prefer, should be interpreted as inviting us to experiment and to experience other lives, to open up to future-oriented questions and queer those other potentially good lives, taking resilience to moving horizon. I don't have time to discuss resilience, but resilience implies redundancy. Many options of possible lives, and not just one good life, not one blueprint of utopia or good life. We also need to question any lazy concepts relating to the question of cultural identity, engage in intercultural and transculturally rich and experiences, opening up to indeterminacy in our everyday lives, learning through serendipitous life experiences. Here the three princes of serendipity are also a very important symbol, story. It's also about overcoming the pitfalls of an identitarian trinity. The identitarian trinity of speciesism, communitarianism, and individualism. Resilience implies an ability to learn from and to absorb disturbances, to be changed, to reorganize, and especially to co-evolve with the world, while developing an ethical, societal direction, one example of which can be found sketched very interestingly in a collective text, the Convivialist Manifesto, around the principles of interdependency and care. A queering life art does not seek or bring certainties, comfort, and clear borders. Instead, it fosters uncertainties that stimulate denormalizing and denaturalizing aesthetic experience and thought processes and embodiment processes. It is a process, one could say, that's where, when one thinks of theater, I would choose not to think of a distanciation of Brecht, which is very intellectualized in a way, but rather to think of this idea of a hot distanciation, not a cold distanciation, but a hot distanciation, and the idea of freaky desires that one finds in one queer theorist and queer artist, Renate Lorenz. And also actually the writings of the son, keeping you in a warm flux of intellectual, emotional, and corporeal confusion, which is an artful state that can help to keep certain ambiguities and ambivalences, to work with them, to let them thrive in certain moments in the lives in order to learn from them and to experiment. From such experiences can arise more interesting queries of good lives, taking us to other possible desires, elsewhere than within the vast dependencies of an affluent consumerism. Besides, a vigilant and a chronic process of querying is also toward of a rigidification of ethics into some kind of moralism. So we need a constant reflexive work of denormalization and deterritorialization of identities, without which this genetic potential of chaos that Morin also talked about in, I forgot, somewhere in the message, in thousands of pages there. So there's this kind of genetic potential of chaos, it would be choked off without this form of process and of work. So we need to mobilize aesthetic sensitivities to a living complexity with this kind of convivialist direction I was mentioning, but also I would challenge you to consider with Discordian eroticism. I won't go into their details, but this involves queering gender, which is actually what queer theory is coming from after all, queering sexualities, queering more generally our different forms of personal embodied lives, the lives of our mind bodies. And one example, one slightly provocative, because it used to be considered extremely, it's still nowadays very taboo. One example is the practices of BDSM, bondage, domination, and sadomasochism, which there's a lot of cliches about them, but those embodied practices are an amazing source of everyday lived experience of the I cannot speak Latin properly, the coincidentia oppositorium of this antagonisms, and finding other levels in ways which are very, very, so to say, deeply felt, which have to do with, I will just take two false binaries, or two binaries, which are very simple, which we all know, pain and pleasure, and domination and submission, which are the basis of this kind of embodied practice, and where these kind of practices can bring us way further, way far away from those cliches of pain and pleasure, or those cliches of what is power, and where is domination or submission. So this brings then to, and I will just have, how many minutes? 5 minutes? Okay. Six, okay. Then to this question of doing, of transdisciplinary doing, through artful practices. And this is where the idea is to look into, that's what I'm doing also with my social research actually the last couple of years, looking into societal spaces of possibility, spaces which are in everyday societal life, and spaces which are in public life. So it's about doing transdisciplinarity together, where we live, where we work, in our everyday, so to say, environments. And this is about spaces of possibilities, meaning physical spaces, physical geographical spaces, social spaces, spaces of the social, and mental spaces. Spaces where potentially sustainable futures are already taking some shape now in society, in our lives, are emerging and can be experienced by those who participate in it. Another word for this, which had been discussed a few years ago, and is still discussed by an American sociologist, Eric Olin Wright, is the idea of real utopias. So utopias which are current experiments in our societies, in our cities, in our villages, which allow to develop desirability, but also viability and achievability. There's different qualities of space of possibility. I won't again have time to go in details, but those in short that I would like to mention are imagination, experimentation, challenging experience, creative, social creativity, participatory learning, and prefigurative doing. So very shortly, imagination, here I mean pointing to how spaces of possibility allow participants in those experiments in the city, allowing them the unfolding of imagination, ideally a critical and radical imagination about what desirable futures do they develop, or do we develop rather, experimentation. This is not in the sense of a controlled science lab experiment here, but this is in the sense of an artistic experimentation, an artful experimentation of a desirable and a viable everyday life, which can be conducted, in this case, I mean, not just by a single, specific, specialized profession or a group of people we call artists. I mean, really here, in communities. This is something that we will hear, and we are very happy we will hear in the case of Lily Gay later, an example exactly of how this can be done with communities, because I'm just not talking in Czech always without an example. This also has to do with challenging experiences, not just comfortable experiences, but challenging experiences that relate to various areas and issues in relation to everyday life. And also the idea that creativity is not just the creativity of one person, but a social creativity, a group creativity shared and allowing participative learning. And finally, the idea of prefigurative learning is a kind of Gestaltung, a kind of creative activity of giving form and shape while doing or making something, which prefigures what could be, what a future society could be, even though, of course, one cannot just, it's not about revolution, it's about creating those prefigurative spaces. I won't have time for that, but other interesting parallels are with the question of heterotopia, creating a different space and a different time in spaces of possibility for in everyday life, which is still separate from everyday life, while at the same time not a full heterotopia, because those spaces are part of archipelagos. They are connected in networks to many other spaces and possibilities in contemporary societies. Yes, and then to conclude, maybe one thing is that, Hans Tillman, my colleague Hans Tillman, was writing recently that transdisciplinary learning and knowing, when it moves in between levels of reality, allows us to see unity and connectedness as a capacity we create inside of us. So this links, of course, to the included third. We heard about hidden third, and I won't go into. We talked a lot about that today. Realizing unity in knowing, surpassing the fragmentation of knowledge. However, I'd like to stress that such unity and connectedness must always explicitly be seen as a plurality within qualitative complexity, without tipping into any form of holistic simplification. Artful sustainability is convivial and discordian. This is why a crucial quality of artistic and art-based approaches is to maintain tensions, to maintain discomfort, irritations, and challenging experiences while moving in between and across levels of reality, and also to associate ontological, epistemological, and political imaginations.